Now it comes out, and by the way, I just got to admit, I kind of missed this story. And when you miss a story, you just got to own up to it. I missed this. I was being told that she transferred money into her from her Senate account into her campaign. What I missed, though, and just so you know, this is new from the New York Times, basically saying that Elizabeth Warren transferred $10 million, $10.8 million from her Senate campaign into her presidential campaign. Where I think the confusion was, and a lot of that money, the 10.8 million, came from big fundraisers with the very people she is basically calling corrupt and saying she's not going to take their money anymore. Well, she took their money in the Senate during her Senate campaign, and essentially, I don't see a differential. If she took that money as a Senate candidate and transferred it over, and that's how she started her presidential campaign, then it's not true that she hasn't taken money during her presidential campaign from corporations or, corporate CEOs and these very people, because that is the money she has used. $10 million is a pretty good start to have that in the bank as soon as you launch. That's why she was able to staff up so much. She staffed up more than anyone else, any other candidate in Iowa. She staffed up because she had $10 million from her Senate campaign. Where I think I missed this story, I was under the impression that the $10 million that she transferred was from a super PAC she had as a senator, because she did have a super PAC for her reelection campaign in 2018. That's how I thought. That's what I thought it was. I didn't think it was her campaign committee. I thought it was super PAC money that was being transferred over. And when I looked at no. I didn't think that you can't transfer super PAC money into your campaign committee. What I thought is the issue and the criticism of Elizabeth Warren is she had a super PAC in her 2018 for her 2018 reelection in Massachusetts, and I looked at that and only saw. I mean, here is her super PAC. The majority of it was from labor, $159,000. Finance which is Wall Street. Financial lawyers, was only $2,500. So that's what I was looking at when I was told, oh, she has a super PAC, she has a super PAC. When I looked at her campaign committee, they have financial information for campaign committees, but it doesn't give you any information on like what fundraiser she held, who hosted the fundraisers, that kind of stuff you have to dig for. There wasn't much information out there until now about the fundraiser she was having to get that $10 million. So if you haven't read this is from the New York Times. On the highest floor of the tallest building in Boston, Senator Elizabeth Warren was busy collecting big checks from some of the city's politically connected insiders. It was April 2018, and Miss Warren, up for re-election, was at a breakfast fundraiser hosted for her by John M. Connors, one of the old guard power brokers of Massachusetts. Soon after, Miss Warren was in Manhattan doing the same thing. There were then trips to Hollywood and Silicon Valley, Martha's Vineyard, and Philadelphia, all with fundraisers on the agenda. She collected campaign funds at the private home of at least one California megadonor and was hosted by another in Florida. She held finance events until 2 weeks after her all but assured re-election in November. Then, early this year, Ms. Warren made a bold bet that would delight the left. She announced she was quitting this big money circuit in the 2020 presidential primary, vowing not to attend private fundraisers or dial up rich donors anymore. Admirers and activists praised her stand, but few noted the fact that she built a financial cushion by pocketing big checks the year before. The open secret of Ms. Warren's campaign is that her big money fundraising through 2018 helped lay the foundation for her anti-big money run for the presidency. Last winter and spring, she transferred $10.4 million in leftover funds from her 2018 Senate campaign to underwrite her 2020 run, a portion of which was raised from the same donor class she's now running against. As Warren has risen in the polls on her populist and anti-corruption message, some donors and privately opponents are chafing at her campaign's purity claims of being, quote, 100% grassroots funded. Several donors now hosting events for her rivals organized fundraisers for her last year. Quote, "Can you spell hypocrite?" said former Governor Ed Rendell of Pennsylvania, by the way, one of the most corrupt corporate Democratic Party stooges out there, who contributed $4,000 to Warren in 2018 and is now supporting Biden. Rendell said, he had recruited donors to attend an intimate fundraising dinner for Miss Warren last year at Barclay Prime, a Philadelphia steakhouse where the famed cheesesteak goes for $120 for a cheesesteak. He said he received a glowing thank you letter from Miss Warren afterward. But when Mr. Rendell co-hosted Mr. Biden's first fundraiser this spring, Miss Warren's campaign sent brickbats deriding the affair as a, quote, swanky private fundraiser for wealthy donors, the likes of which she now shuns. Quote, she didn't have any trouble taking our money the year before, Mr. Rendell said. All of a sudden, we were bad guys and power brokers and influence peddlers in 2018. In 2018, we were wonderful. Supporters of Miss Warren say her presidential campaign should not be criticized for trying to lessen the influence of big donors now, even if she wooed and benefited from them previously. Quote, there's a perverse incentive system for public officials, said Adam Green, co-founder of the Progressive Change Campaign Committee, which has endorsed Miss Warren. If candidates continue the big money status quo, he said, you don't get called a hypocrite. But if you stick your neck out, take chances, challenge power, and try to change the system step by step, you get criticized for not taking every step possible all at once. So, Adam, who I know, I don't know him that well, but I know him. I've met him. I've interviewed him before. The Progressive Change Campaign Coalition was trying to get, they were behind the campaign to get Elizabeth Warren to run for president in 2016. She obviously didn't run. I don't know Adam that well. I like him from my interactions with him. But to keep it real, and I would tell him this to his face, kind of full of shit on this one. So, this stuff about, I just canceled the story. But this stuff about, being brave and sticking your neck out, yeah, she was sticking her neck out at high dollar fundraisers in Silicon Valley, in Martha's Vineyard, in New York, in California. That's where she was sticking her neck out. And frankly, I'm sorry, it's just not accurate now. It's not accurate to say she hasn't taken big money in her presidential campaign. The money that was transferred over, $10 million, Bernie transferred money over from his Senate campaign. The only difference is that money came from small dollar donations that he raised for his Senate campaign. He was never doing lavish fundraisers at steakhouses for $120 for a cheesesteak, which is a damn good cheesesteak, but do you have $120 for anything right now, much less a cheesesteak? Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.